in the field today. So you learn the techniques and skills in use today, not those used 20 years ago. And remember, there's nothing wrong with enjoying what you do for a living. Why spend a third of your life in a job you hate? Call the Radio Connection program and take the first step towards your new career. That's 1-800-755-7597. Get into that exciting and rewarding career you have always dreamed about. And be sure to tune in to KFBC and Frank Bermuda Schwartz every weekday morning for your chance at a free scholarship into the Radio Connection program.
This is not a podcast. This is Internet Radio. You are listening to the Random Internet Radio Show on Spreaker.com.
Here's a car question. How does rust get into your engine? Water attracted by the ethanol that's in your gas tank. Right now, ethanol is in virtually every gallon of retail gas. It attracts 50% more water than unleaded. With water, that means corrosion can begin at any time. But you can protect your engine with the BG Ethanol Defender Service. BG cleans, dries, and protects the entire fuel system. You can find this service at a shop near you at bgfindashop.com. Remember those two letters, BG.
This is not a podcast. This is Internet Radio. You are listening to the Random Internet Radio Show on Spreaker.com. You're listening to the Random Internet Radio Show on Spreaker.com.
Once upon a time, not very long ago, quite recently in fact, there was a little girl. An ordinary little girl who was quite beautiful. Like all ordinary little girls, she couldn't wait to grow up. As time went by, she met an ordinary, handsome boy. They fell in love, were married, and they lived happily ever after.
Are you a beer lover because you enjoy that tantalizing, sharp, and refreshing flavor? But on the other hand, you have to count your calories? The perfect choice for you is Coors Light. Its rich, full taste adds enjoyment to any meal or snack. And besides that, it's only 100 calories. Coors Light uses the clear Rocky Mountain spring water of Golden, Colorado, and it contains no preservatives or additives. So pick up a six-pack for a totally satisfying beer. Coors Light.
You're listening to the Random Internet Radio Show on Spreaker.com.
I stayed for 4 weeks longer, 'cause I thought you'd change your mind. But you told me to go there faster, 'cause you didn't change your heart. Waste the party we went to on Thursday. I drank too much and barely made it back. I looked for you in a maze of frozen sidewalks. The new year came, but you had gone away.
Social Norms with Norway there, here on the Random Internet Radio Show. My name is Alan Wayne, and yes, about 3 years ago I did get wrecked on 186 Point Deuce. I just want to give Velton some acknowledgement here. He was able to find a YouTube video that actually documents my wrecking 3 years ago, and it's gotten 41 hits. I mean, 41. That's amazing. So do check it out. Get those hits up. So you could see how I got wrecked there, and it should be a good time. You can't acknowledge the present, and you can't go on with the future without thinking about the past for a minute and thinking about what you did. I did a lot of stupid shit on this program and on this platform, but I'm hoping that maybe with a little time that I can get back to a stride and everything else. That being said, as I said, I am a different guy now, and I'm taking a lot of this shit pretty lightly. I'm not taking it seriously. It's kind of fun. So, all right. So to get back on track here, I wanted to talk about what's been going on the last 6 months. I left Music Mafia Radio because things were getting a little too busy around the family area and things like that. And I was wanting to spend more time off of the computer, spend more time with my family, spend more time doing other things, and everybody needs a break. Everybody needs a break, and everybody needs to do something different sometimes. So I took off there. It was also around that time that my mother, she was just getting out of surgery for cancer, and she had some really, really bad cancer. I'm not going to go into the details because I'm not going to gross you guys out, but she had some really, really bad cancer. And she survived the surgery, obviously, and was to go on a 6-treatment chemotherapy program. Now, chemo has killed a member of my family before. The actual chemotherapy has killed a member of my family. And that was a risk that I suppose she was willing to take. That was a risk that the family was willing to take to make her better. And there was assessments and things done, and they came to understand that she could take the chemotherapy. So she goes in and she does the treatments, and I'm telling you, she was so brave and positive. She lost her hair, she lost a lot of weight, but she was always so nice and wonderful and loving when we came to see her. She could have just said, guys, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like going to see you guys. I don't feel like getting out of bed. I don't feel like doing anything. I don't want anybody to see me like this. Guys, you guys, thanks, but no thanks. And so she would continue with the chemo. And the last 2 treatments were very rough on her. She had side effects, complications. She was very sick from the last 2 treatments. However, when it came down to it, she was finished. March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, she was finished with her treatment and still putting forth a brave face. Not feeling very well, but still putting forth a brave face and doing just wonderfully. Her prognosis was good. And then a week later, she was rushed to the hospital. Her main condition, the condition that's given her so much grief and so much pain, other than the cancers that she's gone through, is COPD. She was diagnosed in 2009 after a trip to the emergency room where she almost died. They basically looked at her lungs and said, well, you have COPD. And she was a lifelong smoker, and she was not the best eater or whatever, and not the most active, certainly. But she still continued to live life as fully as she could with this disease. She was on oxygen for a while. She was limited in what she could do, but she still did crafts. She still did handiwork. She still did great things. There it goes again. While she was gone, or while she was, not able to do things physically, she was able to do other things. So the real underlying cause of a lot of her distress was COPD. Even though she'd beaten cancer twice, COPD was just really the bane of her existence. And she kept smoking throughout it. Now, I'm not one to preach. I'm not one to tell anybody, guys, you shouldn't smoke, guys, you shouldn't do anything. I believe anybody should be able to do whatever the fuck they want to, as long as it's only themselves they're hurting and not someone else. And that's just what I believe. I believe that people have the right to fuck up their own lives. I believe that people should have the right to hurt themselves if they want to. If they feel that the high that they get and the benefit that they get from said items is worth more than the risks, then they should be able to do it. That's why I never bothered her about stopping smoking. I never bothered her about it because I kind of knew that, well, she was going to do it anyway. She was going to do it anyway, and that's it, Gone this long with warnings and everything else, there's a point where you just got to let someone live their life, and that's what she did. Or that's what we did. We let her live her life. Now, fast forward from 2009 to present day, first time I saw my mom after she was rushed to the hospital this most recent time, she was on a ventilator. She was out of commission, as you would say. She was basically drugged up to the point where she wasn't around. She was basically out, and finally, she was on a ventilator. She had a machine breathing for her. She had intravenous feeding. I mean, she was on life support for all intents and purposes. But the folks at Kaiser Permanente, and I know there are a lot of people who don't think that Kaiser Permanente is a good provider, but I got to tell you, these folks were very, very kind and caring and gracious, and they were absolutely phenomenal with her in her treatment, in keeping us abreast of the situation, being honest yet being compassionate, and that's a hard line to straddle, especially when you're talking about someone who is possibly terminally ill. That's a hard line to straddle, and they did it very well. So they kept her going for about 3 weeks, and then they realized that they couldn't keep the trach, or they couldn't keep the ventilator in her, so they had to install a trach. Tracheotomy basically is installed when a stoma is implanted in the neck, which means that there's a small ring that's implanted into the trachea,